All right, I'm going to answer some questions here on this vlog. My editor, Cecil, hey Cecil, you're editing this right now. He wrote this in. Also, I was reading in a Facebook thread about people confused on what people want, and that they just hear people talk about the injustices that are being displayed, but they haven't heard about the ideas that people have put forth that will change things. So, what I think is, if you want to hear about ideas that people have put forth that will change things, I would urge you to follow Nickimja Armstrong. You will hear a lot of ideas that should be put forth to change things. Nickimja is an absolute force to be reckoned with. I think that she is most likely going to be the future of the Twin Cities, and in protests and as a voice for the community as well. So you should get on board now if you haven't. Also, go check out Reclaim the Block. They talk about defunding the police and divesting from the police and investing in the community. And this goes into another narrative we talked about with people over property. And I think that's really, really huge. And when you talk about divesting from the police, what you're talking about is taking that money and putting it towards something else. What you have for the police is militarized people with military weapons that have been causing chaos and death in the community, funded by the taxpayers. So brought to you by your money. And I think Reclaim the Block and MPD 150 are two groups that have been doing amazing work on that. So you can take a look at those people as well. When you talk about people making real change, I think that you should also talk about all the food and supply banks that are happening all over the city. What can you do? Bring something to a food and supply bank. And if you can't, if you don't have the money, volunteer your time. Just show up. I just showed up to Pimento a few days ago and just sweated out some hard labor for a few hours and left and came back and filmed them because they're doing great work. They're doing like phenomenal work. And I think that's really important. There's, God Christ, there's like a food and supply bank like every 2 blocks. And a lot of them need a lot of things because each food and supply bank is kind of tapped into a different community. And that community is looking at them. Du Nord, huge on the south side because the Cub Foods over on the north side on East and Broadway, Broadway East, on Broadway is inundated. I mean, it's just packed. And the next thing that I want to talk about that not a lot of people are talking about is communities policing their own communities, protecting their own communities. I shouldn't even say the word police because I don't think that's the right word. Communities defending themselves. I have a friend that is driven from Cottage Grove every night, hour out, to come to the Cedar community and do night watch. That's where we're at here in Minneapolis. So that's the work. Yeah, there's an injustice, and now there's work to be done. And so I think it's one thing to talk about it, and I think a lot of people are talking about it for a reason. And you should probably celebrate that as well. I mean, it's not enough. It's not enough. But it's a conversation starter. And I'm not necessarily here to celebrate, people doing that enough, as you've seen in the past videos. I'm not really a fan of that. But I think people kind of deserve some grace right now, especially around Minneapolis, because everybody's pretty damn traumatized. But if they haven't talked about it, then shame on you. I've already talked about that. But you're seeing the work, people defending their communities without police, people supplying food and supplies and medical equipment to the community without a grocery store. And this is all free, right? This is all free, and this is just people power. And then you have organizations like Racial Justice Network, Reclaim the Block, MPD 150, that are getting in there and doing the work to really, really change what the police force looks like, what the budget for that looks like. The Minneapolis Federation of Teachers started a food and supply bank as well. They have a community that they're specifically tapped into, whereas there's a lot of families that they're tapped right into on the north side to give to deliver to. And so these people are looking straight to the institutions that institutions of education and just pillars in the community to help out. And so I'm sure you can find one in your community to help out or defend. And it really just takes. You don't have to look far on Facebook or Instagram to really find what you need to be doing or where you need to go. I think you can take action that way. And a lot of people are doing it. And having the conversation is one thing, that's great, but now it's time to take some action. So that's my answer to that. Hope that does something for you. Let me know if you have any questions or comments on or where you need to be in the city. You can go to my Instagram, Toussaint Morrison. I'm posting constantly on my story about where to go and where some food and supply banks need more food and supply, because they run out and some of them are like, oh my goodness, we're inundated. And the next thing you know, whoosh, it goes out the door. So yeah, there's a need and people are fulfilling that. And hopefully you can too. So best of luck with that, and we'll see you in the next video. Our work is never done.